Japan Station is made possible in part by Patreon support. If you would like to make sure that I can keep bringing you more content like this, then head on over to japankyo.com/Patreon and sign up for as little as $1 a month.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Japan Station.
Welcome to Japan Station, a production of japankyo.com. This is where people come to talk about Japan. My name is Tony, and today I am joined by
Ryan.
Yes, Ryan, my co-host Ryan. So
I had to leave you hanging for a while, so I thought
yeah, a
you were
little bit.
alone.
You left me hanging there. You made it seem like I was just talking to myself. So today,
You are. I'm being added in post later.
So today we're talking about Japanese food, and this was actually a request by one of our Patreon supporters. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month if you want more content like this. It helps me pay for stuff. So please. But Jonathan Root, Dr. Jonathan Root, he actually was on Japan Station as a guest. He wrote a book about Kitano Takeshi and Zatoichi. So if you're into that kind of thing, check that out. But he actually asked us about ODEN, a type of Japanese food. And there's quite a bit to say. So we're going to get into it. But, full disclosure, both Ryan and I really like Japanese food. We've done shows where we've talked quite positively about Japanese food, but neither of us are that crazy about ODEN. Right, Ryan?
Yes.
Like, we can eat it just fine, right? Like I have, I've
Yeah,
had it in dinner and all that, and I can eat it, no problem at all. It's just I never really care for it. Like I never crave it.
I love everything my wife cooks. When she says she's making oden, I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. Um, and look, I think it's how can I put it? Maybe it's just because we didn't grow up with it. That certainly does happen.
I think
It
that's a big thing. Everyone who talks positively has like childhood nostalgic connections with it.
yeah. Look, just really quickly, I'll get into more detail here, but oden is basically like a boiled pot of various ingredients. So it's of course a winter food, and I know that it's something it's cold outside, whatever, let's get a pot of oden or whatever, and let's buy some from the convenience store or the supermarket, et cetera, et cetera. So in a sense, you could say it's like a comfort food kind of thing. And if you grow up with it, then yeah, you will have those childhood memories, and you just kind of have a craving for that flavor. I totally get that. It's not that it tastes bad. It's just that it's not particularly flavorful in the most exciting way to both me and Ryan. So even though we do eat it, and there's nothing wrong with it, we're just not the biggest fans of it.
Yeah, since we're talking about it, it definitely doesn't taste bad if you've never tried it. You should have no reason to fear it.
Yep.
My main objection is it doesn't really taste at all.
Yeah, it's a lightly flavored. You can say that, but also there is regional variety. And whenever we talk about Japanese food, or well, I guess you would say like language, a lot of things in Japan, there is a lot of regional variety. So you can't assume that it's always exactly the same everywhere in Japan, because, for example, even oden, I've seen different people talk about like a severe difference between how it is in the Kansai area and the Kanto area, and how the names are different. But I've also had it in the Kansai area, and it kind of seemed the same as the Kanto area. So it's yeah, I don't know. It's tricky. It's really tricky. It depends where you go. Like maybe if you go to a national chain, then it's going to be more like the same everywhere. But we're mainly just going to talk about oden in the most general sense.
I was going to say, have you tried it like the konbini version across the country? Because I'm wondering if that is the same or not.
I've never bought it myself, and I've had it because somebody bought it and gave it to me, like we were having dinner or something, but I don't remember ever having the kombini version.
I think I'm the same boat. I don't think I've ever bought it. I think my wife has gotten it maybe once. She likes to cook it herself, but
Yeah.
I feel like there was one day she wanted it and didn't feel like cooking and we picked it up.
Yeah, it is just we might as well just make it clear here. Oden is available at just about any decently sized convenience store. Like there are some tiny, tiny, tiny convenience stores where I think they might not have the little Odin station where you go, you scoop up the ingredients and a little bit of broth, you put it in a little cup kind of thing, and then you take it to the register and pay for it. It's a really affordable food for the most part. And so this is once those little Oden stations come out at the convenience store, you know it's basically the start of winter in Japan. So a lot of people might stop by the convenience store and just, oh, I'm just going to get Oden for dinner today and, take that home for the family. Or you would get that something similar like at the supermarket as well. So it's super,
I'm
super
glad you
common.
mentioned
Mhm.
almost everywhere has it except like bad convenience stores because I'm convinced I live next to the worst 7-Eleven in the country because we do not have it.
Is it a small one or is it just for some reason
I
bad?
they don't have anything there. It's really close to another one, and I feel like they just give all the good stuff to the other one.
Uh-huh.
But like my wife was sick maybe a month or two ago, so she asked me to like go pick some up for her, and I was like, I don't remember seeing it, but maybe they like set it up now. This is still in like January, right? So it should definitely be there. And nope, wasn't there. And just many, many times, like when there's advertised, like, oh, new 7-Eleven, you can get this, like special promotional thing with some anime or whatever. And ours just doesn't have it ever.
Right, right. I find it I like that you mentioned how the sick thing like that. I've heard people talk about oden as something they might eat when they're sick because it's lightly flavored and I guess easy on the stomach. It's not like oily or anything like that. So like when I was kind of looking around online to see what people were saying about oden, I noticed I came across a video where a guy was saying he was in the Kansai area and he was originally from Kanto and he was feeling sick, and so he went to a restaurant and he saw oden on the menu and he ordered it. But instead of oden, he got like something that was very dark colored and kind of oily, and it had meat in it. And this was the Kansai version or Kansai take on oden. But actually, the traditional one that, or the general one that most people know of, the lightly flavored version, had a different name, and so he was surprised. And this was kind of like a regional difference kind of story. So um, I guess the ones in convenience store, even in Kansai, because you are in Kansai, is the more general, like widely acknowledged version of oden.
I've like almost exclusively lived in Kansai and I've never seen it the other way. But again, I don't really go to Oden shops that often.
Exactly. Yeah, I never did either. Or, um, I mean, there are oden restaurants, but I can't remember ever going to an oden restaurant
I drive past one like every week, and every time my wife says like, "Oh, next time we should eat there," and then we never go there.
because you never remind her.
Yeah, a reminder, we'll have to go there.
Yeah. So okay, so I mean, we gave a little bit of a general idea, like this hot pot kind of thing, but so just a little bit more detail. So oden, it's this, it has this light soy sauce kind of flavored, but dashi broth. Dashi is kind of, I think, the key component, and there's typical ingredients that are found in oden. Some of the most common ones include, let's see, daikon. So there'll be these like slices of daikon that are simmered in this broth. So they soak up the broth. And somebody that really likes oden would really like that because you get to, eat that broth with the daikon because it sucks it all up. It's like a little sponge. And konjac, Konjac. It's like a gelatinous, usually sliced thing that is made from it derives from yams, a type of Japanese yam. It's very gelatinous, like thick jello. And for
Thick
example,
Jello makes it sound worse than it is.
well, yeah, but it
I mean, I know what you're saying because I know what it is.
yeah,
Yeah, it has no taste.
yeah,
It's just a cube.
yeah. It slices. Or, well, I guess you can cut it any way you want, but like the reason why I say thick jello is because like if I were to just say jello,
Yeah,
it sounds like you could cut it with a spoon, but cognac
no.
you can, but it would take much more work to cut it with a spoon.
Isn't there some like magical sword someone had that can cut through everything except konyaku?
Oh, that sounds really familiar. Was it like a Doraemon thing or something? that sounds
I
like
don't know. I just remember hearing that, but I
yeah.
forgot who it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Kind
That
of a
sounds
joke.
familiar.
Konyaku's not easy to cut, not like tofu or something. Like,
Yeah.
but it's not generally hard to cut.
Yeah, it's definitely easier than mochi, for example, which mochi does
Yeah.
sometimes end up in oden. Boiled eggs, oden, processed fish cakes, also oden. Very, very common ingredients. Um, so yeah, those are the typical ones. There's other ones, and we'll get into a more detailed list of kind of the common ingredients. Uh, like I said, there is regional variety, and I'm sure that in some regions you may get certain ingredients that you don't get around the typical like Kanto, kind of stereotypical area. I think most people associate the generic oden that most people acknowledge it with the Kanto area. Um, but let's get into a little bit of the history first, and then we'll get into the ingredients. So apparently,
It was born in that.
it was born in 1922. No, Oden traces its. So first of all, let's talk about the word. The word Oden comes from the word dengaku, and dengaku is a so originally back in the Heian period, so like over 1,000, what, like three, it's like 1,300 years ago or something like that. I think I'm please, double check on that, but it's something like that. So yeah, during the Heian period, dengaku was a kind of like a ritual kind of dance like thing that people would do during the rice harvests or during the rice planting, I believe, and that was in order to promote, like a good harvest. Now, eventually, that turned into just a dance, and nowadays, dengaku can refer to that dance as well. Apparently, when you do that dance, and I'm not into traditional Japanese dance, so I just looked this up and I read about it. But there's this like stick or paddle kind of thing that they hold. Like I guess it's like originally like a rice paddle kind of thing. Again, please, you can check this up. I'm sure you can find photos. But basically, this paddle looked like what would come later, and what would come later is a dish called dengaku because there were it was like tofu on sticks that you would grill and then dip in miso sauce. And these sticks of tofu resembled those sticks that I mentioned the dengaku performers would use, right? And so dengaku became the name for this type of food that started it seems popping up around the Muromachi period. Um, so but it evolved. It took some time. It wasn't really until like the late Edo period that it really started solidifying as what we have today. Like throughout the Edo period, I think we started to get closer and closer to the oden that we are talking about today. But it seems like it really, really took off in the late Edo period to early Meiji period. So we're talking like second half of the 1800s, most likely. And that is when you get oden. And oden is something called nyobo kotoba, and it's this somewhat common thing in the Japanese language of like shortening a word and then adding o at the beginning. So dengaku gets shortened. You chop off the end, den, and then you add o, which is kind of this polite like prefix, and then you end up with oden. And this is something that was commonly done by the women of the imperial court. It was kind of a playful way of this kind of almost like their secret language. And the funniest example of this that I can come up with off the top of my head, because I've actually done like I did a video about this actually, is onara, fart. So nara nara comes from like narasu. Narasu is like to make a sound, right? And so they chop off the su and you get nara, and then you add the o and you end up with onara. So it's this kind of polite euphemistic way to refer to this. And apparently oden follows the same naming convention because I don't know, they like to be playful in the imperial court. I guess women had nothing else to do than to play with words and write epic novels like Murasaki
And
Shikibu.
fart.
What?
And fart.
And fart. Yeah. No, they didn't fart. They onara.
Oh, okay.
So
Is that
yeah,
actually the origin for the word onara?
that is the commonly accepted origin. Yeah. So
That feels like something if you look into it, you find out it's not true. So I will never look into it.
I did look into it. That's what I found. So and it makes sense, like, given that there is an established this nyobo kotoba thing, like where they would chop off the word, shorten it, and add the o. There's plenty of other examples that I I actually can't come up with another one off the top of my head, but maybe one will come to me as we talk. Um, so yeah, so that's the basic idea of where this all came from. It took a while to finally turn into what we know now as Oden, and after the Showa period is when it really started to take off. Apparently, at first it was more of a restaurant thing, but then after the war, I think it might have been in the 1950s. There was a company that put out like basically like a what do you call it? Like a dashi pack kind of thing, like the
Hmm.
you can the broth, right? Like you can buy like the
Like the
thing.
pre-made one, not the cube.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it was a cube, but I don't know. It just kind of mentioned the article just mentioned it in passing, so I don't know exactly how it was. But basically, you could buy the seasoning, that the thing that you can make the broth out of, so that you can actually cook it at home.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
dashi is basically broth. If we didn't say that,
yeah,
if
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
started using the word dashi.
Yeah, so basically, that became widespread and easily available. You could just purchase it to prepare it at home, whereas before it was more cumbersome. You actually had to do everything. So then that led to Odin spreading even more. It wasn't just like a restaurant thing. Okay, so let's get into some more of the ingredients. We already talked about a few of these, but let's just review. So of course, we have daikon, which is this Japanese radish, and it's cut
I'm gonna
into
interrupt a little.
slices.
Does it feel weird to you to call these ingredients? I don't know. They feel like they're more than an ingredient. I don't know how to explain it.
I get it. They are the meal, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like they're cooked in it, but they're it.
That is a good point. Like, would you call the meat that is the steak an ingredient?
No. It's different than like noodles in the soup because you don't just like remove the noodle from the soup to eat it, right? Like,
Yeah,
but here you do.
I I totally see the point. But for the sake of simplicity, let's just call them ingredients because
Okay.
I don't know what else to call them. So yeah, daikon radish. I already talked about that. It soaks up the soup, so or the whatever the oden the shiru the dashi whatever it is. So people like it for that reason. Konyaku, like I said, it's that thing derived the gelatinous thing derived from Japanese a type of Japanese yam. I think a lot of people don't like this because of the texture and it doesn't have any flavor of its own. Uh,
Yes.
so
This is the most common food I hear like tourists saying they hate.
mhm,
And as
yeah.
someone who lives here, it's okay. Actually, when it's chopped thinly and they make like cognac noodles, I actually
Yes,
like those.
yes, me too. I was gonna say the exact same thing.
Yeah. Like, yeah, if you just have me the big slab of it, I think it's flavorless. So it's definitely not bad. I don't know why people act like it's disgusting. It's
Yeah.
not, but it's not particularly enjoyable. But for some reason, when it's a noodle, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. Like sometimes you get it in maybe like a gyudon, like a beef bowl, or
We use it for
sometimes
onabe.
what? Oh, nabe. Yeah, yeah,
Onabe.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. So if you do it right, well, okay, in my opinion, I guess what according to me is right, you're gonna eat it with the sauce and all that. So it's like a noodle with a good sauce on top. I like it. I like that kind of cognac.
I guess the difference is you don't put it in oden. You put it in like broth that actually has flavor, so that tastes good.
Oh my God, this is the pick on Odin episode. Yeah. So look, yeah, again, cognac. If you like cognac, you're gonna like it in Oden. If you don't, you may not like it because this is usually not the noodly version. This is like the
Yeah,
slab
this is the.
sliced version.
It is usually a triangle.
Ah, there. Thank you for the description. I've never even really, I can't see too
I
well. I
have
just
seen
put it in my mouth.
rectangles too, but I feel like the triangle is the more common one.
Okay, okay. Let's see. What's the next one that I have on this list? Okay,
Shirataki.
shirataki. So this is like a bunch of this is more like the noodly version that we were talking about of konyaku, and it's kind of like all together. I think this one I do like. Uh just because it's more noodly, although in oden it's still oden, so you know. And then of course we have the one of the most classic ones here, tamago, right? So egg. It's just a boiled egg, and it I think a good oden would have the flavor that dashi flavor in the egg. So again, if you like that flavor, this is going to be a really good hard boiled egg. Uh, Next up, we have chikuabu. Okay, so chikuabu. So, this is like the fish cake kind of thing, except it's made out of flour. It looks like it, but it like a kind of tubish kind of thing, but it's made out of flour instead of the like scraps of fish like that are turned into like a gelatinous fish cake. So chikuabu. Yeah, again, I'm sure I've had this and it's one of those things that is like, okay, what is this? Okay, I'll just put it in my mouth. I'll just eat it. I don't think about it too deeply.
The notes say not to be confused with chikua, but you can also have chikua noodle, can't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can also have
Yeah,
chikuabu.
that's like my
Yeah.
favorite one, I think.
Yeah. That's the fish cake. So yeah, and that's extremely common. All right.
So describe what chikua looks like.
You describe what you got looks like.
A lumpy tube that you've cut in half long way, so it's kind of a U.
Okay, there you go. This is like the worst. You asked Jonathan. You asked the worst people to talk about.
No, I like chikua. Chikua is like actually one of my favorite, like, I guess we're calling them ingredients and things
Yeah,
like this. But like it's a weird thing that doesn't resemble other foods.
yeah. No, no, I'm totally fine with Chico. I'm just saying, uh, he asked the wrong people to talk about Oden. It's like we eat it, but
Because
we never pay
I
attention.
think if you say it's made of fish paste, people assume it's going to be like an actual paste, but no, like they use fish paste to make it. It's no longer a paste when you eat it.
Yes,
It's
that's a good
it's
distinction.
it's hardened into a shape, and the shape is like a U that's very long.
Yeah. And another quote unquote ingredient here we have is hampen, which kind of looks like tofu, but it's another type of fish cake. There's plenty of fish cakes and different, sizes and shapes and all that. So this is look, I don't dislike fish cake and some I actually quite like, but it's not my area of expertise, so apologies. All right, so the next ingredient, as we're calling it, is tsukune, and this one is basically now. I think typically it's chicken meatballs, but there might be some versions that have pork in it as well. Uh, but yeah, they're exactly what you would expect. It's a little meatball, and this is it'll soak up some of the broth as well. So I actually this is one of my favorite ones. I don't think you often get tsukune, like it's not one of the most common ingredients, but it's also not super rare. So sometimes you do
No, no, no.
get it in
I
Oden.
always get tsukune for having oden.
Well, if you have the choice, yeah, I would too. And another one we have here is gobo maki. So gobo is burdock root. Yeah, it's a Japanese vegetable thing. We don't.
I feel like
I
just
don't.
saying gobo. That
Yeah. Well,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Normally I would an audience that speaks 100% Japanese would understand that, but just for the sake of explaining burdock root, even though I think a lot of English
I
speakers
don't
don't
know
even
what
know
a
what that is.
burdock root is. That's
Yeah,
like
don't even know
yeah.
what that is. Yeah, exactly. It's just gobo. Just remember gobo. So it's a
Yeah, the
type.
only time you're gonna need this is talking with Japanese people, so you might as well use the word they're gonna know.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and it's this vegetable like burdock root, quote unquote, that's wrapped in another type of fish paste, fish cake. So it's got a kind of more crunchy core because you've got this vegetable on the inside. So you've got a little bit of texture, as opposed to a lot of oden, which has a lot of like soggy, soft textures.
I
Okay.
never realized just how much fish paste is like essential to all these oden things until we like
I
list them all out.
I never did as well. I've never looked this deeply into oden because again, it's not something that I was that interested in. I just eat it. Just shut up and eat it. Ah, okay. So the next one that we have here is gammo, and I don't remember this per se, but I think I might actually like this. So apparently it's a deep fried tofu with some like chopped up vegetables, I guess, in it.
Okay, I think I had that and liked it.
Yeah, I may have had this. I'm not sure, but it sounds good to me.
Fried
So,
tofu means it's just the same as age, right? Just
yeah,
with veggies inside.
yeah,
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 but I like age. I don't know why adding vegetables would make it not good.
yeah, 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 exactly. So, yeah, this sounds good and sounds vaguely familiar, but I can't, I don't know. Like I said, I don't eat it that often, so can't really remember. And that is pretty much it. Again, there's a lot of regional variety, and uh, for example, in the Kansai area, there's also this alternate um, term that is kanto daki. Daki means to like, well, you could say like cook or cook over a fire or something like that. Um, so again, regional variation, different terms, but generally speaking, this is what you would get if you ask for somebody to give you some oden, or if you see it at a convenience store. Yeah, and again, it's quite cheap. Like at the convenience store, I believe they charge you per ingredient, unless they've changed that in more recent years. I don't know. So each ingredient might have a different rate, different price. So that's the general idea with Odin. I'm sorry. Hopefully that was useful, or at the very least entertaining to you, Jonathan.
This is literally a commissioned episode
Yeah, yeah. Jonathan
for
has been
one
a
person.
very supportive, long time supporter. I am so grateful to him. And so when he wanted this episode, when he told me he wanted this, I said yes, and I did my best here, Jonathan. Oh, thank you. Thank you for all your support. I hope you found this interesting. But I do have an interesting side story that I remembered when this whole Odin thing came up. And this is something that I love, this kind of ridiculous news, wacky story kind of stuff. And so I'm going to use this as an excuse to talk about the Odin Tsuntsun Otoko. So, as we talked about, Odin is the food, right? Tsuntsun is an onomatopoeia that is used when you poke something, right? Like tsun, tsun, tsun. That's the kind of sound effect for somebody poking something. And otoko means man. So back in 2016, there was a huge, huge, huge news story. I actually wrote an article about this on japankyo.com. This was like shortly after I started the blog. So, back then, all I was doing was just hunting down wacky Japanese news stories and translating them into English. So this was one of the news stories that I first covered, I think. So the story goes that this guy,
Named Tsunsun.
named Tsuntsun, yeah, well, he became known as the Oden Tsuntsun Otoko. But this guy from Aichi Prefecture, he shot a video of himself at a convenience store. And like we've talked about, there are these in the winter, there are these little Oden stations with Oden there floating warm in this, little Oden container that you take out the Oden when you want to buy some, right? And so he shot this video on his phone where he says, "Oh, everybody, look at this. In recent years, Oden has been very common in convenience stores, and now I'm going to poke it." And then he goes, "Tsun tsun," and he pokes the Oden floating in the broth, in this dashi broth, right? And he pokes it and he says, "Tsun tsun, tsun tsun, tsun tsun." He does this a few times, and then
Like
he
he's
pokes.
putting his finger in the broth.
Yes, 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 yes. And it's like, "Oh, it's hot. Oden, tsun tsun, tsun tsun." It was a stupid, stupid video, right? And he posts this to, I believe it was Instagram. And this guy, I learned this when I researched this in the past few days, because a lot of this wasn't reported on at the time, because it just became like a big like scandal, right? And it's really interesting to see like everything that was actually going on behind the scenes, but the media didn't really fully report on this. So what happened was that this guy, he is the owner of a skateboard shop. He was a pro snowboarder at some point. He was doing wacky videos to kind of promote his channel. Well, I think it was Instagram. I don't know if he was doing YouTube at the time, but just promote his presence online and use that to promote his skateboard shop and all that. And he started doing like kind of stupid, jackassy, like the show, right? Like show movie, kind of that kind of style of like, stupid videos, right? And
I feel like he
he
was being generous. He's like, they have to throw it away if he's sticking his hand in it, right?
hang
Like,
on, hang on. See, this is the twist. This is the twist. This video was on Instagram, right? And then apparently, I believe that the people on Nichan, the message board Nichan that was going crazy at the time, and in the English world it's 4chan, right? But in Japan it started out as Nichan. I think they got a hold of it, and then they started talking about this, how stupid this was, and blah 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 blah, and it then the media got hold of this. It turned into a whole media frenzy. They started to kind of track him down and went to his house and to interview him and how could he do this. And just for a little bit of context, there was this rash of at least a couple or three or four like employees in Japanese like convenience stores and restaurants or whatever that were doing stupid stuff. Like one guy was naked in like a employee sink or something behind in the employee only area of like a shop or something like that, and he shot a video of himself. And so they were calling this how do they call this, like something tero, I forgot what it was, like employee terrorism, something like that. I think that was the buzzword that they were using at the time. And so some of this was a real problem, but and so this is the way that the media covered it. But here's the thing: this guy, the guy that poked the Oden in the convenience store, he always went to that convenience store like pretty much every day. So he knew the clerk. And this was at closing time. He got in. It was after closing. The clerk was going to throw away the Oden and wash the container. And so the clerk told him that. And so then the guy that poked the Oden asked the clerk, because he was friendly with him. They weren't friends, but he was friendly with him. And he said, "Oh, hey, do you mind if I just shoot something with this Oden?" Right. And the clerk was like, "Yeah, do whatever you want. I'm going to throw it away anyway." So he did that. And so he didn't taint anything, right? It was totally fine. The problem is he didn't say that this happened after the shop closed and all that. And so when the media got a hold of this, it blew up. And the extra layer of this is that he then when this started blowing up, he went to a lawyer, consulted with the lawyer, and the lawyer said, "Oh, okay, fine. Let's go to Circle K, which is the convenience store, and let's apologize. Let's just, do that because you didn't do anything
Whoa.
wrong, but
Circle K still existed in 2016?
Circle K, I think, exists in some parts of Japan still, like as a convenience store.
I think it got bought out. There's only like 3 now, and it's depressing.
Oh, okay. Well, in 2016, apparently it still did, at least that one that he went to.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. I'm going to Google this and see if I can find one.
That's okay. So the idea was to go to apologize, right? But then the police showed up at the lawyer's office, and he tells this extra part that I found an interview with him. He did 2 interviews 2 years ago, and in one of the interviews, he talks about how after he left the lawyer office, his friend was supposed to come pick him up, and it just turned out that there were police there waiting for him, but the car that the police were using looked exactly the same as his friend's car. And so he accidentally got into the police car, and then the police got like upset, I guess, and said, "Get out, right? What are you doing?" And he didn't know that it was a police car. He just thought that it was like the media, like it was a TV channel, like trying to, shoot footage of him. And so then he got out of the car and he started walking away, but he noticed that people were chasing him. These guys were chasing him. And so then he started running because he thought it was the media chasing after him. And then this one guy that was really fast, like knocked him down, I guess, and like took him down and said, like, "Why were you running away?" And he said, "Because I thought the media was coming after me." And it turned out that it was the police. And so then the Oden like poke guy, he says like, "Why didn't you arrest me when I got in the car?" And then he's like, the police told him like, "We didn't know what you were doing." So they got kind of like surprised that he just jumped in the car and it led to this whole misunderstanding. But ultimately, they took him, I guess, to the police station and they questioned him for like 5 minutes. But by that point, they already knew exactly what had happened. I guess they had talked to the clerk and they had the security footage. So they knew that he didn't do anything illegal. So they let him go after 5 minutes and they never prosecuted him. But like his landlord ended up kicking him out of his apartment because the media kept coming by. He was already separated with his wife, but then the wife used this as the final like nail in the coffin. It's like, let's just get a divorce. He had a rough time for a while, but then because of this, he ended up meeting a woman that let him stay at her house, and then they got married. So this story is like absolutely ridiculous, and it all goes back to like him just doing this stupid video that he didn't do anything wrong. It's just that if he had put a little comment in the Instagram post saying like, by the way, I this was after it closed and the Oden wasn't actually for sale, none of this would have happened. But because he didn't do that, it blew up. The media blew it up, and then the police had to do something, even though they didn't have anything to charge against him, right? So yeah, it's crazy story that all goes back to just him poking some Oden.
So be very careful not to touch the Oden, or your life
Yeah.
could be ruined and then later improved.
Yeah. Well, if you do this like while the convenience store is open and you ruin the product, then that is a crime, right? You would get arrested and prosecuted for that. But because that was going to be thrown away anyway, then there was no crime there. But the problem is that the Japanese society thing of like once the media or whatever the widespread society labels you as something, then you become kind of like ostracized, and there's these kind of like social consequences even if there isn't legal consequences. But it was really interesting to find out the full story because so much of this or almost none of this was really conveyed in the media at the time. He was just being used as another example of these of actual people that were doing wrong stuff, like shooting stuff in stores and all that with their videos for social media. But he was not like doing an actual crime. It's just he didn't really let people know the full story, and so that blew it out of proportion.
Speaking of this, if you do come to Japan, please don't film stupid prank crap. It's really annoying.
Yeah, it's not good, and there is a chance you could get arrested. That stuff does happen. So as I've done these like crazy walking across Japan things, I've done it twice now. I've done stuff that I shouldn't have done, but I have the excuse of like I'm actually mostly blind and it wasn't on purpose, et cetera, et cetera. But there are people that do stuff they shouldn't be doing that result in news headlines and all that. So please be careful about that. If it's an honest mistake, I think people generally are willing to understand that. Even the police will within my situation, when I explain what was going on, they go, "Oh, okay, yeah, just be careful," right? And so they hear me out and all that. But if you're doing it just to generate some views on TikTok or whatever, then that really is messed up. So please be careful about that. So yeah, Oden Sunsun Otoko, legendary guy that it turned out there was a whole lot more to the story than what we got at the time. So that is the Oden episode. Do you have anything else to say, Ryan?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I will say, give it a shot. Like if you're in Japan and you have the chance to have some Oden, give it a shot. Just because
Don't go out of your way for it, though.
just because Ryan and I aren't crazy about it, maybe you will love it. There are people that absolutely love this. Okay, so
it does not taste bad. If you're again, a lot of people are worried that things are going to taste like gross or weird. It doesn't. It's just kind of bland.
Here's one ingredient that I forgot to mention that I actually like. Mochi kinshaku is what I believe what it's called, and it's the age tofu. And inside it is mochi. So the idea is mochi is of course the glutinous rice thing, right? And kinshaku it comes from like kinshaku bukuro, like the coin purse, right? So like the age tofu is like a little coin purse in a sense, and you put in the mochi inside. And so it's got in my opinion, it's got like a nice chewy texture. I generally do like the whole like age tofu, like the kind of fried tofu. So it's got a nice contrast in the textures. I do quite like that one within this Oden, genre. So maybe even if Oden, you're not that crazy about it, you can find like, for example, tsukune or certain ones that you do some of these quote unquote ingredients that you like more than others.
Since you mentioned mochi, I'm just going to throw this out there because I just encountered people on another like YouTube thing I was watching mention this. Mochi is not ice cream. It has nothing to do with ice cream.
Yeah. That's very interesting how mochi ice cream has become quite popular in the past like 5 to 10 years in the US at least. And so a lot of people that have never had mochi have it for the first time with mochi ice cream. And then I guess they just come to associate mochi with ice cream like synonymously, but they don't realize that like mochi is just the outside of the mochi ice cream. And it's actually used in tons of other stuff in Japan.
Yeah, if you come to Japan and say like I want mochi, you will not receive ice cream.
No, you will get the kind that kills senior citizens every year. Um, like just
The
a chunk.
senior killer.
Yeah, yeah, just a chunk of glutinous rice cake. And what I'm talking about is that every New Year's, like you get headlines of, senior citizens eating too much mochi and choking on it because they bit off more than they could chew, and it is quite chewy. So if you have too much, it can get stuck in your throat. You can choke on it. Uh, and that's just like base mochi, right? That's just glutinous rice cake. That's all it is. But it's used in sweets. It's used in soups. It's used in oden. Like ichigo daifuku, right? For example, very popular sweet where it's the mochi cake around an actual strawberry. It's quite good, and it gives it that extra little texture with the mochi on the outside, and it's usually like a kinako powder or something like that on the outside as well. So it's used in a whole variety of things. It's also like, for example, in Kyoto, there's yatsuhashi, which are like, I guess they're grilled or like
Are they
basically,
grilled? I don't know
are
how you
they,
make them.
I don't know how, I don't know exactly how they bake them or something. Like basically you cook, however you cook it. I'm not 100% sure, but you cook the mochi thinly to the point where it becomes like crispy cookies, basically. And there's various flavors. It's quite, no, wait, is that the yatsuhashi? No, the yatsuhashi is the soft,
Yatsuhashi's a little triangle that you can see like a darker part in the middle.
right. That's the soft one. But then there's the other one that is the cookie like one that they actually like bake or something that is crispy. But that's also originally mochi. So the point is that there's various mochi types and all that. It's not just ice cream.
If you do want the ice cream when you come to Japan, it's usually called yukimi daifuku,
Yeah, good point.
which you'll notice doesn't have the word mochi in it.
Yeah. That's a very good point. I didn't even remember that. Yeah. So
It just like it's something that's I just constantly forget about it. Like when you live in Japan, everyone knows what mochi is, but occasionally when I interact with like non-familiar with Japan people, like, oh, I really like mochi, especially with chocolate. It's like, wait, huh? And
right.
it takes a moment to click, like, oh, you don't actually know what mochi is.
It's interesting in that outside of the people that are familiar with the way it's done in Japan, they don't have mochi as mochi, right? Like
Yeah, like never.
mochi is something that is with a sweet, and that's all it is. Um, and even though that is an aspect of mochi, there is of course more to it than that.
And even though that ice cream exists here, it's one of the least popular ways to consume mochi in Japan,
That
I think.
is that is very true. And actually, even as ice cream, like you see just for example, plain soft like soft serve ice cream
Yeah,
more than you see mochi ice cream in Japan.
it's. I'm almost tempted to call it rare. It's not technically rare. People know what it is and it's
Yeah,
around, but
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it's much less popular than like every other form of ice cream and every other form of mochi.
Yeah, that is a good point. Like I can't remember the last time I had it in Japan. I remember the last time I had it here in Hawaii, uh, which is interesting. But yeah, so that's an interesting layer here. That maybe we could do an episode on mochi, I guess. But
I mean, that's just a common thing, though. It's kind of interesting. That would be a good episode because
yeah,
since you're in Hawaii, to mention a Hawaii thing, in
yeah,
Japan, if you ask like what's a famous Hawaiian food, almost certainly people will answer loco moco.
yeah,
But if you ask in mainland America, no one's ever heard of that.
yeah. Well, they would say poke most likely, which has become
Yeah,
super popular in the past 10
and in
years or
Japan they'd
so.
say poki.
Poke, yeah. For some reason, even though they can pronounce poke, they like to write it in katakana and pronounce it as pokeball, which
Katakana loves to get everything wrong, man.
I
That's like
don't
one of my biggest pet peeves is
I
everything is
don't get
wrong.
that. That is, and surprisingly, like, oh, we're going off on tangent here. Last thing, like katakana often goes to the like original language with like Latin and all that. There are a lot of cases like that where the katakana actually does get it more accurate than the English. But in
Those
the
are all
case,
old. There's no recent example of
that
that.
is a good point. They are old ones. Yeah, yeah. There's a very good point. But for some reason, poke, which here in Hawaii people call it pokeball, right? Like for some reason in Japan, it's become more and more common to hear it as pokeball, which makes me think like some white guy went over there and told everybody it's called pokeball.
my pet peeve is like every movie ever, they get everyone's name wrong in katakana because they just add in. So sometimes they want to base it on the letter and not the sound, which is like literally the opposite of what katakana was made for. I
Yeah.
watched one recently where there's a character named Isaiah, who of course is then Isaiah because that's how you say it.
Oh, maybe they went with like the old whatever
But that's
original.
not his name. Like you
No,
can
I
hear
know.
him saying the name.
I no, I totally agree. I totally agree. And I think they should have gone with the, the actual pronunciation that the guy calls himself, right? But
Yes.
I'm just trying to come up with some possible justification for why they would do
And
that.
the weird one I've noticed, anyone whose name ends with like NE, for example, Suzanne,
Oh,
can
new,
you guess what that becomes?
new,
Yeah, Suzanne
Suzanne.
Nu.
Yeah,
And like, but there's no new.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not just that, it's all of them. If there's like a gene that ends NE, you're going to be Genu. If
Yeah,
they're
I've
like
seen that. I've seen that.
anything.
Yeah, yeah. I think that goes back to French for some reason, but
But
yet
they're not
again,
even
it's
French
like,
names half the time.
yeah, but again, if that's not how they pronounce it, then they should go with, how they pronounce it. But this is how much we like Oden that we'd rather be talking about mochi and
Yeah.
katakana.
Sorry, that's just the thing that like I just saw the movie like the other day with the Isaiah and like, come on, you can hear him saying the name.
I get that. I get that. That's yet another topic. But anyway, we've gone on long enough. Jonathan, I hope at the very least
Just
you found
imagine
this
if
interesting.
Goku in Dragon Ball was like renamed like Gakko.
Gecko. Well, the original English dub, I think it was the first English dub called him Zero. So um,
Really?
Harmony Gold, yeah, Harmony Gold. They called him Zero. Yes, yeah. So Goku became Zero. Yeah. Make of that what you will because it's utter nonsense. And with that, we will finish out this episode. We hope you guys at least enjoyed this one. There was some knowledge and then a lot of tangents. If you have any ideas for other episodes, you can reach out via the Patreon you can join, or you can also just email me, mail@japankyo.com. We love getting listener suggestions. We do our best. We have certain areas of expertise, of course, but I'm always willing to do a little bit of research to at least try to bring you something interesting, something that you may not find elsewhere. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll be back in the next one.
Bye bye.